Hey guys, JH, welcome to Practice Tee. Okay, today we're going to getting very close to a final protocol, and I've been reluctant to call anything a final protocol yet, because the final protocol will still have variations associated with it for individuals. But one of the things that I found that suits my physiology and my speed of operation, my musculature and my twitch fibers. I'm a really quick type of person normally. I mean, I just am. So for me, it goes against my physiological overlay to work with a swing that is very, very deliberate and slow. Now that may suit some people, and I can do it, but it's not a reactive normal thing for me to do. And my normal golf swing traditionally has always been a reactive rhythm setting of the golf club, and that is that in my original conventional golf swing that I always threw the club back with speed, and as it was going back I turned against it. I turned against that momentum, and the hands were totally passive until they came into the hitting zone. But what that does, guys, if you can imagine that the club is just whistling back here, and as it's still going back here, we are turning something in the lower body against it, which just loads up the hands automatically. It just puts pressure on the hinging of the wrists here through the turn. I used to feel I was turning my belly button to start the downswing, and I was turning my pelvis and my lower midriff underneath my shoulder girdle, like this. I would get here, and then it felt like this was stationary here, and that would pull the turning of that belly button and the shifting of that weight diagonally was what brought the hands down and loaded the hands in the golf swing. And I called it reactive loading, because as I threw back and I felt the weight and the momentum of the golf club going back, I reacted to that momentum going that way with this mass in my body here going this way. And it just created this slingshot effect. This is going here, so I'm pulling on it. But I'm not doing anything with the handle of the club or the head of the club. These are totally passive, and the arms, the shoulder girdle, the midriff is pulling on the chest, is pulling on the shoulder girdle, pulling on the arms, and then pulling on the wrists, and then ultimately pulling on the club head. So it looks a little bit like this. So I've got the momentum here, guys. I'm swinging it here. Now what happens, of course, is that there's a very, very free unloading of the lower body. But the unloading takes place this way. As I'm coming down, as I turn this here, it's a diagonal pull here, which keeps those shoulders closed. And then I can fire and slap as hard as I like. And the sheer momentum and the speed of that is going to pull the body through to a finish. Now all we want in channel lock at the end of the day, guys, is closed shoulders at impact and 5 o'clock nose here, and a release on the golf club. What happens after that really is irrelevant. Now when I say my hands are passive, they are passive in feeling until I get to about here. And then they go. But they go automatically. I don't have to worry about it. So what do we call it? It's called reactive loading. And the lower body is reacting to the momentum of the club head. Here, I throw it. If this was loose, guys, and I've done videos in the past, lots of videos, like 6-7 years ago when I first started, I used to tell people that if you felt that the club head was loose on the shaft and in the back swing, you wanted to throw the head off the club over here. That's what I used to try and get people to do. Throw the head off the club back over there, and the head would come off it because of the momentum. I only ever wanted to feel the club going that way. And then I just turned against the club going that way, this way, with my body. It was this. Now guys, there's a lot of reverse loading on that golf swing. A lot of reverse loading. And there's a lot of power in that golf swing. Huge for me. Why? Because I'm generating so much load through the momentum. If I just take the club back like this, there's no momentum and I've got to do something. Now that might suit some people, and you can actually go with a ready code from there. Mr. X does it fantastically, and I can do it on occasions, but it's not natural for me. So for people that is not natural for, and if you're someone that likes to flow the club, this could help you. Now I haven't hit a shot today, but this is essentially what it is, guys. Don't lose your train of thought, John. Go back. Yeah, I'll talk about this, guys, and then I'll come back and I'll hit some shots. But I want to get the message across. So the message is, in channel lock, the basic tenet or tenets of channel lock are simply this: that we have the golf ball back here so we can swing the club beside our body. Why do we want to swing it beside our body? So we can keep our shoulders closed at impact. Why do we want to do that? Because we want to get a consistent attack angle on the golf ball every time and start it in the same direction. Every time. Now as long as you keep the shoulders shut down here and the ball back there with the club coming from in to out, you're going to achieve that. Now you can achieve that a number of different ways. What I've espoused to date is only what I thought would be a good baseline to start with, but you can modify that. All you have to do is keep in place the basic, core issues, and that is closed shoulders, 5 o'clock nose, fire it here, closed shoulders at impact, and release the club to the target there. Now that's all you have to do. Now what happens post impact? Okay, I still will have the feeling at impact that my load, my weight and my pressuring is loaded down that trail axis here. I will still have that feel, even though I'll end up here post impact. But my feeling at impact is right at the ball, and that weight going down and the club going diagonally out to the ball here. Even though this is pulling, it's pulling here, but it's not pulling this sideways, and it's not pulling that trail leg off its support base, off its vertical support base. It's not doing that. It's just not doing that, folks. So what is it? It's called reactive loading, and it's this. Everything the same with channel lock. Here. We're going to throw it. We've got a loose head on the club. We're going to throw the head off, and while the club's still travelling back here, we're turning against that. It's here, we're turning against it. That's what it is. It's a reactive change of direction. Guys, that almost puts me into orbit. I just get so much speed on that. Do it smoother. Look at this. Now that's a really good fast pivot for an old dude. That's because I'm creating a stretch factor. As this is going back, this is moving forward and stretching those arms and pressuring the club head. It's exactly what Hogan did. Mo Norman said to me, Hogan didn't have a backswing. He didn't have a backswing, he just threw the club back there somewhere. And it took me a while to understand what he meant, but he was absolutely right. And I asked Mo, I said, what do you think about your backswing? He said, no, I do not have one. I just throw the club back there like Hogan. And that's when I asked him, I said, what did Hogan do? He said, just threw the club back there. I said, what do you mean? He said, he did this. He said, watch him, watch him. He went down, then he turned against it. He was actually turning against it while the club was going back. So he pivot released the club. And I guess at the end of the day, what we're talking about here is a pivot release. We're releasing it with the pivot. The pivot starts here with the belly button. Okay, I've released everything off the trail shoulder post-impact. Now that might feel more normal to most people. And I think that's a good thing. It's an alternative to this type of channel lock. I can still do that. I can still do that with the reactive loading. So guys, that's the basic message there. That for people that have a bit of trouble taking it back slowly and positioning the club, just fire it. Just pull it back. This is very soft. Thomas Fraser says he pulls his trail hand now back against a limp lead hand. Now that's a great description. And that's the feeling I get, guys, when I load it. I pull it here, look, watch this. And Mr. X saw me hitting these shots yesterday and he said, the audio okay? And Mr. X said, I can't believe how low your plane is, JH. He said, it's under your shoulder. And I said, well, that's because I'm not trying to do anything in the backswing. There's no lift intention whatsoever. It's purely letting the club find its own orbit. Yeah. Okay, guys, so that's the basic principle. I'll come back, I'll just slightly adjust that camera, I'll come back and I'll actually hit some shots and you watch how much power and speed I can get into the shot and what the swing looks like.